Hello students, this video explains the Crucible Literary Analysis Essay. So you already have looked at the AP prompts, though we call them AP prompts, but you've chosen one that you've wanted to do on your pre-writing. You've also discussed them in a discussion board. Now the purpose of doing the discussion board and the pre-writing was for you to look at and brainstorm some ideas about those prompts and understand them better. So you should have already chosen one and brainstormed some ideas about what that means and what are some main ideas and what character you want to do. So these prompts are also here. So the first one was about a character who feels alienated from society because of gender, race, class, or beliefs. And you're going to discuss how that character tells us something about society or their moral values. And how that character's alienation takes place. Like, why does it take place? What causes that to take place? Then number 2, if you've chosen that one, you're going to talk about madness or mental illness or eccentric behavior that a character does and how that character's madness or irrational behavior makes sense and how it plays an important role in the story. So you're going to explain how that behavior is reasonable or why that character does what they do and how it makes sense to the story and why it's important in the story. For example, like Abigail, her madness and irrational behavior makes sense because she really was in love with John Proctor and she did not want to lose him. It could also make sense because her parents abandoned her by death, not by choice, and she watched this horrific death happening and she wasn't really loved and accepted in her uncle's home. Okay, so number 3 is morally ambiguous. That means that you don't really know if they're good or evil. You can't really decide because you see 2 parts of them in the story. So you choose a morally ambiguous character who plays a pivotal or important role in the story, and then you write an essay about how they are both good and evil in the story and how that is significant in the story and how that ends up and helps us to understand the character. One person could possibly be like Reverend Hale, John Proctor, and Abigail to some extent. In many works of literature, this is number 4, sorry, I moved on to number 4, past events can affect positively or negatively the present activities. So choose a character that struggles with some aspect of the past, and then write an essay to show how that character's relationship to the past contributes to the meaning of the work as a whole, or contributes to the story. And so you, again, Abigail could be an example, her past relationship with John Proctor and the fact that she really didn't have parents growing up and feel loved, that affects her struggle with her past and why she does what she does. So that kind of is similar to number 2. And then the last one is choose a character who responds in some way to justice or injustice. So that could be anyone. Elizabeth, John Proctor, Rebecca Nurse. That one's a little bit harder to do as far as understanding justice or injustice, or could even be Reverend Hale. Those would probably be your choices. And then here's an example of how to write a thesis, because that'll be the next step. So once you've chosen your prompt, you will then write a thesis. And I've done this as an example of a different prompt so that you're not copying it. So my prompt is this one, and then it gives an example thesis and how to do an example outline. And then this part is the example of how to put it all together in a paragraph. So your requirements are that you will have a thesis statement. Then you have to choose 4 strong pieces of evidence, so 4 quotes from the play, and you can use your study guide to help you, and those should support your thesis. So if you're talking about how Abigail is deceptive and that causes her to be irrational, you have to give quotes that explain that. Once you do your 4 pieces of evidence, you also have to make sure that you have an analysis that clearly connects your ideas to your thesis and your quotes, and then you write a short conclusion paragraph. You will not use pronouns, I, me, we, rather your analysis is phrased in an academic manner, and you are to use MLA formatting, and I'll talk more about that later. So where you go from here is this. You read this over, make sure you understand it, look over the example so you kind of know where you're heading. You're going to be writing 2 of these paragraphs. So 2 paragraphs that support a thesis. You do not have to write an introductory paragraph. You're just going to put your thesis at the top as a paragraph all on its own. And then you write 2 paragraphs that look like this. They're color-coded for all the parts that you have to have. Again, you have to have 2 of those. Each paragraph has to have 2 quotes with analysis. And then your concluding paragraph is just like a short sentence or 2 restating your thesis and main points. There are outlines and processes to help you, so I'm going to show you what those are. Okay, so once you read over all the requirements, that's your first introductory task. In the folder, the first task is to write your thesis. The second task is to find your quotes. And your last task is to write the first paragraph on the outline. So writing your thesis, this gives you an example of how to write it, the directions and some examples and a formula, and you complete this document. There will be a video explaining this as well, but you don't have to use the video. You just have to complete this. You could just even do it by looking at the directions. You put your name in there, which prompt you're doing. You can copy and paste it. The list is there if you want it. You can just go back and forth and do it there. Okay, and then you would, so you look it over here, you choose your prompt, copy and paste it, okay? And then you would put it in this document, and then you would write a thesis directly on this document. Okay? And it walks you through it. So this document is task, your first task is to write, once you're done with this, you're gonna write your thesis. The formula is there. You can use that starter sentence and you just put it in there. So that's your first task, is to write a thesis. Then you Dropbox it and message me so that I can give you feedback, and I will give you feedback within 24 hours. And then your second task is to find quotes to support that thesis. And there's a quote chart here. So you can revise your thesis if I tell you to based on my feedback, and then you write your quote and bullet points of how you think that supports it. You have to have 4 quotes, and then you Dropbox that, and then you go back and you do task 3, which is to start your outline. There are 2 choices for outlines. There's outline 1 option and outline 2, and there'll be a video explaining that, but you would complete the documentation for that first paragraph. So you copy and paste your thesis there. You would do your quote first, put your quotes in there first, write a topic sentence, give some background, do your analysis, and you can use your chart to help you. A transition. You'll have your copy and paste your quote from your other one, give an analysis, and your concluding sentence. So you have to just do the first paragraph. And then there's an example to help you on that document. And there'll be a video for each of these, but this is just an overview video of what you are to do. So again, just to reiterate, you should have already chosen your prompt and done that pre-writing. Then you're going to write your thesis for task 1. You're going to find your quotes for task 2, and you're going to put everything together on an outline document. If you're choosing, there's 2 options for you to use an outline, and there'll be a video explaining that. So any questions you have, feel free to set up an appointment with me. You will be writing again 2 paragraphs, but this week we're just starting to write the outline for 1 of them, and then we'll move forward. It's just a rough draft, and this is all due on Sunday. Thank you.